Welcome to Turtle Talk. This is Morgan's story and the family's journey. I'm Craig, and
I'm Michelle. Welcome.
welcome back for another round of Turtle Talk with Michelle.
And Craig.
Yep. Here we go. Touched on some legal stuff. We want to wrap up, the first year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The legal stuff we were talking about is all kind of happening in the first year. Depositions were starting to ramp up. I believe that was like middle to the end of the first year because you want to get everybody's deposition while their memory is still good.
Mhm.
You know, an accident reconstructionist was hired to go out and measure skid marks and all that stuff. It was crazy to us that there is so much that goes into these big cases like this. And the more they're uncovering, the more we realize how big of a case this actually is. So when you get big cases like this and people start hearing about it, then the gossip train starts talking and then people start picking sides, which puts us right in the middle, and it was tough. It was really tough to have all this, not only legal crazy stuff going on, but all of Morgan's medical stuff, right? And so, we came home from the rehab hospital and we're 9 months into it.
Yeah.
And then over the course of the next 6 months, even prior, all these legal things are happening. There's, court filings. And boy, I tell you what, I'm going to give these firms a lot of credit because how they understand the process and everything that's got to be filed with the courts to keep this in the courts and the arguments back and forth. Can we sue? Can we not sue? You have to ask the government for permission to sue the government. And then if they deny it, there's other avenues. And holy mackerel. Like, thank God for our legal team because they get huge kudos for just keeping everything flowing. Now, mind you, in my mind, I want stuff resolved yesterday,
Right.
and so for me, this is a struggle, and I can't understand why is things going so painfully slow. But then once again, my sister's voice is ringing in my head saying, you're running a marathon at a turtle's pace. Morgan's our turtle, and hence Turtle Talk, but it's, I have to remember this because it's not just Morgan's recovery and Morgan's care, but it's the legal things. It's a turtle's pace.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever said that people are entitled to a fair and speedy trial are so full of crap, right? There
On the
was,
speedy, on
you
both of
know,
it.
yeah, I mean, the speedy piece of it, oh, forget it. We're 8 years into it and just finally went to court, and got that resolved, but it's still not resolved.
Right.
We get a ruling, but it's still flipped. And we'll get into more of that later. But so it's painfully slow. We find ourselves very frustrated. And let me tell you, lawyers don't communicate very well, which that's okay because it took me a long time to understand. Do you want one that's going to coddle Tom and I, or do you want one that's going to be a pit bull in court?
Pitbull.
And I want the pit bull, which means he's not going to be very smooth, or the firm is going to be very good at communicating with us, which, whatever, right? But it took us a long time to learn that for as mad as we get at them for not telling us step by step, even though it's big to us, it's really small to them, which I understand now. Hindsight's 2020, right? Like,
Right.
They were doing everything super appropriate. I'm just very impatient. My husband's impatient, and we just want justice for Morgan, right? Like, she deserves this, and her life has changed, and our life has changed. All our plans, everything has changed. So backing up, we leave the rehab hospital and get accused of kidnapping, right? Like, come on, please, she's my daughter. And we bring her home. We make a makeshift bedroom in our living room little curtains hanging up. I mean, it was insane.
Because you're remodeling.
So we're putting 1,000 square foot addition on,
Right.
right? Which to most people would be like, wow, that's really huge. Well, yes and no. So Morgan's sleeping in the living room in her bed, and we're trying to build this addition. We knew at some point we were bringing her home, and so in November we had beautiful weather. So I'm down at the rehab hospital. My husband's digging in plumbing lines and stuff because it's still beautiful out. Gets everything there, gets them all capped off and stuff, and they decide to pour concrete. They get all the concrete poured, and then lo and behold, here comes a freak snowstorm. It's like, oh goodness. So we're like, well, we don't know if the concrete's going to make it, not make it. We've got floor heat pipes through it, so you can't just bust it out and redo it again without redoing all the plumbing and all the in-floor heat. So it's like, you know what? We'll deal with it when it comes. So then, it's what, like March, and the weather's getting nicer, and one of the church ladies reached out to us and said, what can we do as a community to help? And she enlisted the help of everyone she could to come and help us build the walls and dry it in. And it was the most beautiful gift ever to have people from the community, our friends and family, all came and they helped build the walls and get the windows in and sheet it. We had pretty much all of that done, the roof on and stuff, in 2 weekends. We had it done,
That's impressive.
dried in, and it was amazing.
It's like an Amish barn raising.
It was so wonderful that we had such great support in the community. I mean, it was such a blessing to us to have these people come and help. And there's no way Tom and I building it by ourselves could have. I mean, it would have taken us months to get it up and closed in and dry it in, and we're tired. We are so tired. Morgan's home. We're used to having nursing help over the night when Morgan's having issues and actually going and getting a few hours of sleep, but now we are it.
Yeah.
We are.
We've talked in the past how it's like Morgan starting over like as an infant.
Yeah.
So that just reminds me of when you're first home with
her, and there's
with the new baby.
I felt like I couldn't even sleep in my own bed, so I'm sleeping on the sofa in the same room in the living room with her, just because I'm so scared that if I walk away for a minute, we're gonna do something that's gonna hurt her.
Right.
It just, your first time bringing home a baby, you're like, oh my God, are they still breathing? Did I feed them enough? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And let me tell you, there was a huge amount of trial and error going on through this. And, so we get her home. We're trying to build the addition. Now it's like, oh my God, we need a vehicle, right?
Sure.
Like, we need a vehicle. How are we getting her back and forth and A and B and blah, blah, blah. And so immediately we go and buy a minivan, wheelchair accessible minivan, which shortly thereafter we realized was a really kind of silly purchase because the whole family didn't fit in it. So here we are with a minivan, and now we have to take 2 vehicles whenever we go anywhere with all the kids. Tom's father passes away, like shortly after we get Morgan home, March, April, I can't remember the exact day. So then we have to go out to Wyoming. So our first big road trip with her, which that was so hard.
Okay.
It was really hard. All the things that we're required to bring with, her pump.
Oh, for her care.
For her
yeah.
cares. And I just, Tom needed me. The kids needed me. and I needed to stay at home with Morgan. But I couldn't. I couldn't do that to them because we have to integrate everybody's needs into one now. And that was very challenging. That was very, very challenging. And we learned in a big hurry is now you don't stay with anybody. You stay in hotels where there's room for wheelchairs. You know, like my parents had to modify the entrance to their house so we could get the wheelchair in. You know, my dad built ramps and things like that. So, and mom changed the furniture around just so we could get her in to the house. You know, this changes your whole mindset on everything. You know, like, whoa. And now, mind you, our front door, you walk in and there's stairs going right down and a railing, so you have to kind of maneuver around. And that was so difficult. So I was very thankful after we got the building, the frame built, because now we have this big 40-inch door that we can get Morgan through easily with no obstructions. Even though we're going into a construction zone, it was still easier to get her into the house.
Right.
You know, and so we're learning new things like, oh crap, we need a van. And you don't know what you need until you trial and error.
Right.
Right? So trial and error became our new theme of everything. So we buy this van, we learn how to travel, and that trip cost us so much extra money because we didn't realize everything we should have brought for Morgan. And so then you're stopping at medical supply places or a Walmart or wherever to buy the extra things that you're like, oh my gosh, I should just pull a camper full of everything, right?
Right.
And then we're trying to figure out doctors. So, you know, I made the appointment with my doctor for Morgan, and we show up there the day after we get home. And I walk in with her and she goes, oh my gosh. And I said, yeah, oh my gosh. I said, I need you to be Morgan's doctor. I need help. I don't know what to do. You know, and I'm sitting there in this doctor's office and I am just losing my mind. I'm just in tears. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing and why did I do this? Like, I'm really second guessing myself, but in my heart, I knew that the rehab hospital was not the place for her anymore.
Right.
I knew that. So now I have to figure out, Tom and I, the kids, we all have to figure out what's the new normal with her, you know? And so her doctor said, okay, you know, we got to kind of figure things out here and stuff. So I'm going to send you to this other facility. I will be her primary care, but you need the rehab piece of it and those kind of doctors. So they send us over to this other place in Sioux Falls. And so I'm learning a lot. Like there's timelines, there's time limits per insurance on everything.
Yep.
I tell you what, insurance is evil. It's an evil hell on earth. So they send us to this place who has us start with the inpatient rehab people. And we get started and I like them. They know what they're doing. Things are really good. And then they say, oh, by the way, we can only see her for 4 weeks and then you got to go to the outpatient rehab. Well, there's a difference between inpatient rehab and outpatient rehab, even though both of them are outpatient.
Sure.
Okay, makes sense?
Yep.
So you have your inpatient rehab, and so we're going to these inpatient rehab people who are more aggressive and they really understand what they're doing and we really like them and they were working really, really hard to help see what gains we could get back with Morgan. And they're helping us get equipment like ceiling lifts and, you know, so we have all these crazy things going on. We have the construction going on. We're trying to get all these medical supplies and equipment that she needs. And we're trying to establish long-term therapy for her.
Right.
And I'm like sucking air through a straw I have notebooks and binders that I'm writing everything down, and I'm still trying to learn all these things. And, so, and insurance is hell. I just, I get so frustrated by insurance. So remember back in rehab, in the inpatient, we're fighting with insurance and will you cover this and that? So now we're on the outpatient side. And of course, then we're at this therapy and I think, okay, finally, I have a moment to breathe. The house construction is going good. Tom is working full time and we're trying to keep building on this stuff in the evening. And I'm trying to get Morgan to therapy. We just bought a van, so at least I can get her there easily, and it's things like little things you didn't even think of, like, okay, well, we might need a little suction tube. We might need a nebulizer. We might need a kangaroo pump because she's still, even though we are teaching her how to eat and she's eating like baby food and like ground texture, she doesn't eat fast enough in order for her to get the proper nutrition. So we have to supplement her through her G tube in her stomach
Right.
overnight. But that comes with a whole list of supplies too. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. I need a doctor to change her G tube occasionally or look at it. So then we have to find a doctor for that. And it was exhausting.
And there's no checklist to follow.
There is no checklist. There is nothing. So it's just by sheer fluke that we would get referred to this doctor or that doctor. And so we're learning that you need a physical med and rehab doctor, which we thought we had at this one facility. And, so we go from the inpatient therapy to the same facility, but they're outpatient therapy. Well, about this time, somewhere in there, I don't know, Tom was going to get mobilized or something. I don't remember quite how it was, but he was going to have to go somewhere. But 6 months prior to him having to go, there was some extra funding through the military to help cover things that insurance doesn't cover, right? So we're at this facility, and like I said, time is surreal to us. So just know we're in the first 2 years somewhere.
Right.
Okay. We're somewhere in there. And so I go to her therapist at this place and I said, listen, here's all the things that we want for Morgan, right? I'm researching, I'm studying everything there is on TBI recovery, like you name it, I am trying to figure it out. And I said, and we have this extra kitty of money that we can use for things that insurance doesn't normally cover. So help us.
Yeah.
Right? Help us. So she's like, yep, I'll write orders for all of these things and do whatever, blah, blah, blah. And time's going by. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like avoiding me and things. And finally it gets into an argument one day and she's like, well, I just don't feel comfortable writing for these things just because you think they're necessary. And I'm like, then why would you say that you would? And now you're not. And it was like, all of a sudden now we're the pariah there because I'm asking her to write for things like a floater for Morgan to be in the water for water therapy.
Right.
There's a very special for disabled kids. It's got like a little head cup and then it's a big mat. And the arms go through and then it supports the head, but she can't roll into the water and she won't drown with this. She won't write for that because she doesn't feel comfortable doing that.
Tests come in all shapes and sizes.
They do. And so it ends up being a shouting match between me and her. And I'm like, if you're not willing to write for stuff for your patients, then you are the shittiest physical therapist I've ever met. You are fired. So she's fired. We stay on for a little bit longer because the occupational therapist, they had this game or this board thing. It was the craziest thing you've ever seen. It's something called Osmo, and you can watch this little thing and it tells you what you have to do to play the game. And we learned that if we could take gravity out of Morgan's arms, like she could do things,
Okay.
right? Which still is our problem to this day. However, so they figured out a way, and we put this marker in her hand, and this bear is going along, going along, going along, and it says, okay, draw an airplane. And Morgan drew an airplane. Like it was a kindergarten level airplane, but it was
Probably as good as mine.
beautiful.
Yeah.
You could tell that's what she was trying to draw. And it was, oh, gosh. So that therapist really helped think outside the box to come up with creative things, like a little board that her arms could strap on with wheels on it so she could just wheel around. I mean, what great ideas, you know. The speech therapist there worked really hard to get us a eye gaze device. However, she wasn't super well versed in it, and the company was not real good at assistance
Okay.
once you purchase the device. So we got it and it worked for a little bit, and then it kind of quit working. So it was like,
Yeah.
so this very, very expensive device we can't use because none of us can figure out how to program it and make it work for the eye gaze piece. And oh, it was a mess. But she was willing to help us get that, you know. So it was a struggle. It really was a learning struggle. So then, oh gosh, where were we? I think we were still inpatient. And Tom got a phone call, no, he got a Facebook message from a lady who was visiting her child at the college in Marshall, Minnesota. And she saw a news article on Morgan. So maybe this was shortly after we got home or while we were still inpatient. Like, time is very surreal. So
Right.
some of my timelines are a little messed up. Please forgive me because, you know, it's been 8 years. Anyhow, she got a hold of Tom, and Tom called her, and anyhow, they had a phone conversation. And she had said that her niece just had a TBI, like, I don't know, 6 months before or whatever. And that maybe that family could be of help to us. And so she got us in contact with that family, and their daughter was on a mission trip, I think in Australia. And she was out taking pictures of this double rainbow. She's overlooking the ocean, and there's a double rainbow, a just big, bright one. And so she was out of the car and went to take these pictures, and a car hit her. Yeah, severe TBI, severe injuries. And so the family was, you know, they knew what we were going through. So we reached out to them, and we were visiting with them, and they were kind of giving us some pointers of what's next. And their daughter was very severely hurt. And so we started asking questions about rehab. What do we do? And we're really struggling. We're in South Dakota. And let me tell you, looking back now, there is really nothing in South Dakota for people with severe neurological injuries as far as intensive rehab.
Right.
So we reach out to them, and they're telling us about this place in Salt Lake City where they live, and said, this place is phenomenal. They can do amazing things. So what do?
Make a call.
We make a call. So, gosh, when was that? Had to be later in that first year home that we went there. Like I said, time is very surreal. So yeah, anyhow, we flew out to this place. So this would be the end of 2018. And we flew out with Morgan, got an appointment out there in Salt Lake City with this place. We got there, they did an assessment. Yep, they can see that things are turning in Morgan's brain. All the connections aren't being made yet, but you could tell. And looking back now, I'm like, wow, there were a lot of things that we were so close that we couldn't see. But they're big things now that we're like, wow, this was happening. So they did an evaluation, and the doctor was very, very optimistic about helping Morgan, getting her walking, things like that. However, they said the problem was because nobody cared for her feet, that they can't do anything for her because her feet weren't plantar grade, flat on the floor. So she said she had an idea for some doctors and she would reach out to them for us and help us make some connections to maybe get her feet fixed.
Because of the restrictions?
They were so, the foot
Flat,
drop was
yeah,
so
foot drop.
bad and it was locked in
Yeah.
and stuff. So we were very appreciative for that. And it was great to meet with them because it gave us hope that where we're at wasn't the end. Right.
She could walk again.
She possibly could walk again. So, you know, we're doing all these things. Right after we got home, you know, we're trying to build the house, get the house built, or the addition. We're trying to get the addition built. We got community help. You know, we're trying to figure out vehicles and doctors and therapy. So, you know, we're juggling the therapy avenue. Tom's dad passes away. We're dealing with that. In the meantime, Brendan's graduating, right? And when we talk about community help, like one of Tom's old classmates, you know, was following this on Facebook and reached out to Tom and said, hey, I'm a photographer. I would love to take Brendan's photos. No charge, just let me do it to help you guys out. So while we were still in Lincoln, Brendan and Tom went over to Omaha, and this lady took all his senior pictures for us.
Awesome.
Which these are things we weren't even thinking of. Like poor Brendan, he's getting ready to graduate, and we're just trying to, oh gosh, you know.
Well, yeah, that's right.
We're trying to tag team his last year of wrestling and his senior activities, and you know, it just, for me, the struggle is the other kids had to give up so much because we were so focused on helping Morgan that I really feel that as a parent I let my other kids down. You know, it's like I feel like I had to choose one and neglect the others, even though I did my damnedest not to miss anything. And, you know, it was a struggle. And so, you know, we're trying to get all these things taken care of, and we're kind of figuring life out. Brendan graduates. He graduates in May, and each of our kids have gotten a graduation trip. So he wanted Hawaii. So now the struggle is, oh, how are we flying with Morgan, right? Because this will be our first flight with her.
Right.
This is before we go to Salt Lake. So we call a travel agent because I thought, well, here's a whole new, it's not like you can just hop on Priceline and make sure everything's good. Not when you're traveling with a handicapped person. And so thank God we had a really, really good travel agent who helped us and got everything lined up from, you know, our shuttles and all that stuff. So that was great. But we go on this trip. So here comes the travel troubles, right? Travel troubles. So we get to the airport in Sioux Falls, and I am going to kind of throw them under the bus because we stayed at the airport hotel so we would not be late. We had a 6 a.m. flight. We stayed there the night before knowing that we have all this stuff with Morgan to deal with. We're at the counter at 4 a.m. in line. We don't get checked in till like 4:20. We go up to security, and let me tell you, it's a joke. All the kids get through, Tom gets through, it's Morgan and I. They're patting her down, they're swabbing her. It keeps kicking back that she's got something. So they come back and they frisk her again. Then we end up going in a room and they frisk her 3 times in there. Right? I mean, at what point does enough become enough? Like, this girl is fully dependent, can't do anything for herself, and they are humiliating her. They're humiliating me. I mean, this was a joke. This is what you get with contract security, right?
Right.
Like, we've never had issue with true TSA agents. We've never, ever had an issue. But these contract ones in these small airports, oh, good Lord. Anyhow, so I tell Brendan and his friend, guys, get on the plane. If we get separated, we will meet you in Hawaii. Here's all the information. Here's the travel agent's phone number. She'll help us all reconnect in Hawaii. So those two go get on the plane. I tell Tom, I said, leave me and Morgan's friend, because I brought her friend with as a helper. Leave us here. We'll figure it out. You take the triplets and go get on the plane. By the time he gets to the plane to get on, now mind you, it's like 10 to 6. Okay? Plane's supposed to depart at 6. The boys are on the plane. Tom is trying to get on the plane. They won't let him and the triplets on. They go on the plane. United does this. Go on the plane and get the 2 boys and pull them off the plane and said either your whole group goes together or nobody goes. Yeah. Security's still taking like forever down here. After 5 or 6 friskings, we finally get cleared to go. Well, by this point, we missed the plane. But I get down there and here's my whole family sitting there. They wouldn't let anybody on the plane. So the one United agent felt really bad, and she's like, I'm sorry, that lady who kicked you guys off the plane, she's not from Sioux Falls. She's a fill-in here from like the East Coast somewhere. So this poor lady worked for the next hour and a half to figure out how to get my family to Hawaii for our family vacation. She sends the 2 boys to Chicago, LAX, Hawaii, to Chicago on one airline, switches airlines, and then LAX and Honolulu. She sends Tom and the triplets on United to Denver, and they can't fly out till the next day. She sends myself, Morgan, and Morgan's friend on United from Sioux Falls to Chicago, LAX to Honolulu. Okay?
But different than the boys.
Different than the boys, because they're on a different flight, but they could join us in Chicago to get on those flights. Okay? So I'm thinking, okay, things are good here, right? So everybody takes off. I'm mad that Tom and the triplets are going to miss the first part of our vacation, right? I'm thinking, how can this be? Like, we worked so diligently with the travel agent, with everybody to make sure that this was happening the way it was supposed to. And then everything went crazy because of this United agent, ticket lady, whoever she was. Snarky butt is what she was. So, yeah, it was travel hell to get there. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We love hearing from you guys, so keep the comments and the questions coming for us.
Yes. Love the questions. Please subscribe. Go to www.givemorgan.org or visit me at my real estate website, realtorcraigbertrand.com. And we always want your questions, comments, like, and share wherever you listen or watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.